Hey guys, welcome to the third and probably final episode of this short mini-series about this 1973 TR6 behind me. So what we've done already on it was we did a lot of electrical work under the dash. We replaced those gaskets here, or those seals on the side of the doors. We still haven't finished yet. Actually, I'm still shooting my previous video, but now because the weather allows test drives, I think I'm gonna do my third video before I'm finished with my second one. You're gonna see them in order, but I think I'm gonna check what's going on with the engine, because if you've watched the second episode, you saw that at some point the engine stopped running well, and then it fixed itself, but we don't know why. So we're gonna figure that out eventually. Then I can go for a few test drives if I need to, and then I'm gonna come back and finish what I haven't finished here, because you see this door still doesn't have the handles, and we still have to change these gaskets here and some little other jobs. But I guess if you watched episode 2, you've probably seen these already. I haven't, so how did I do? Did I do well there? Okay, so without further ado, let's hook her up to the machine. All right, she's all hooked up. I'm not gonna explain all the wires here. If you wanna know more about how everything is hooked up and how this scope works, I'm gonna put a link here for a video that shows that in detail. So everything is hooked up. The wires go up, around, and come back down and hook up to the back of this machine. So let's see what this machine does. I'm gonna start the engine. Zoom you in a little bit. All right, now it needs information about the engine, so modify. Oh, that's gonna shake a lot now. Anyway, so it's 6-cylinder engine, 4-cycle, and it is 153624 is the firing order. Enter, and now we can start going through the screens here. So first of all, let's check the primary and the primary waveform. Good. So this shows you the voltage inside the primary circuit of the ignition system, only in the primary circuit where we have the 12 volt. Looks good. So in this waveform, the primary waveform, we're interested in the dwell. So the dwell is basically the time that the points stay closed. During that time, we have current flowing through the primary circuit. So from the ignition switch, it goes to the positive of the coil, through the primary winding of the coil goes to the points, and then through the points, because the points are closed, it goes to ground. So that's how the current flows. As soon as they open, now the circuit is broken and current is not flowing anymore. So dwell is this period of time in which current flows through the circuit. And this starts here when they close, of course, because now we have a load, which is the primary winding of the coil. Now the voltage drops, and it continues all the way up to here where the points open, and now we have this spike of voltage, because in windings, as soon as we disconnect the circuit, we have a spike in the voltage. That's a process called self-induction, but we're not going to go there. So we're interested in this period. So it is 25 degrees for cylinder number 1, but let's see them all. So 2 is 24 degrees, and it is pretty straight line. Number 3, 4, 5, and 6. They all look good. And they look good because we have electronic ignition in this car. So we can't really screw up with the dwell. It is always the same for electronic ignition. And it looks good. So we can actually see that in the dwell bar graph. So here it shows you all the cylinders. So we can't do much here. We have electronic ignition, so supposedly the dwell is perfect. Now let's go and check the secondary waveform, which this is I'm more interested in. And I'm now interested in this period of time here between the spike and this little nose at the end of this line. So let me increase the size Okay. So now here we are observing the voltage in the secondary circuit of the ignition system, which is the secondary winding of the coil, then the rotor, the distributor cap, the spark plug wires, and the actual spark plugs. All these components are part of the secondary ignition system, where we have high voltage, which is 9-10 kilovolts here. So let's go to cylinder number 1 again. This line shows what's going on in the secondary circuit during the time we have spark in the cylinders. This is called spark line, or it is called burn time, because as soon as we have this spike here, which is function of the spike in the primary circuit, as soon as we have a spike there, by a process called mutual induction, we get a spike in the secondary winding as well. But because the secondary winding has 100 times more turns than the primary windings, the spike here is actually 100 times bigger. So if we have a spike of 90 volts in the primary circuit, we have a spike of 9,000 volts in the secondary circuit. So once this happens, a spark is ignited and it starts burning until all the fuel is burnt and no more spark can be sustained, and this is where the spark extinguishes. So you see here at the end those fluctuations. I think that is caused because we have unburned fuel at the end of the spark. So number 2, number 3. Let's see the other curve now, number 4, number 5, and number 6. This one is somewhat okay. But yeah, the spark line looks good, except those fluctuations at the end. We can see how long this line is for each cylinder by going into this screen, which is called burn time bar graph. And here it shows you how long it is for each and every one. It's supposed to be between 1 and 2 milliseconds, and best is actually between 1.5 and 2 milliseconds. So this is good for all of them. And here we can observe actually the voltage that is induced in the secondary winding. So we're going from 9 to 11 kilovolts. I think it must be a little bit higher here, but that depends on many things. That depends on the spark plugs, it depends on the timing, and it depends on the air-fuel ratio, whether it's rich or lean. All right, we're gonna come back to that, but I wanna test something else now. I wanna test the cylinders. All right, so in this screen, we can make the engine run, or actually the scope makes the engine run without one cylinder at a time. So it kills cylinder number 1 for 5 seconds and checks how many RPM the engine drops for that cylinder. And then lets the engine run for 5 seconds with all cylinders, and then it kills the next cylinder. And then we can compare at the end how much each cylinder contributes to the total power that the engine produces, or the total torque. So let's do that. Auto shortening. So now you see cylinder number 1 was turned off for 5 seconds. Now we're running all the cylinders for 5 seconds. Now cylinder 5 is killed for 5 seconds. Now all of them are running again for 5 seconds. And next one. All right, so you can see here that cylinder 1 produces the most amount of power, cylinder 5 produces the least amount of power, the other 3 are relatively even, but that's not too bad. I've seen much worse. So the last test that I want to do is the cranking amps bar graph. So for that we're going to have to kill the engine, and with the engine off, now we can zero our amp probe, which is hooked up to the starter motor wire. So what this test does is it measures how many amps does the start motor require to overcome the compression on each cylinder. So the more amps it draws, the higher the compression of this cylinder. So it knows exactly which cylinder at which point is at a compression stroke and takes a reading from the starter. So we have to crank it for 10 seconds approximately. And initially when you start cranking it, it allows the engine almost to start, I guess, just so it can pick up a little bit of speed, and then it kills all the cylinders and you keep cranking it until it takes all the readings. So let me start the test and I'm gonna go crank it. Okay, at the end it allows it to start. So it's not too high, it doesn't draw a lot of amperage. I've seen it go to almost 200, but that was on the engine with, that was on a freshly rebuilt engine. So anyways, it is very, very even. So this tells you that all the cylinders, we don't know exactly what the compression for all the cylinders is, but it tells you that all the cylinders have pretty even compression. So that's good. Anyway, I'm gonna pull out some spark plugs now. I wanna just take a look at them and we're gonna go from there. Alright, so this is what the spark plugs look like. Definitely too fouled, all of them. Well, this one not so much. So the first three are actually half fouled and half not. You see? One side looks fine, the other side doesn't. So these are cylinders 1 to 3. But then cylinders 4 to 6 are pretty fouled. So the rear carb runs rich. I think both of them run rich, but anyway. So yeah, this one runs less rich and this one runs more rich, but they're both rich. So we have SUs here. Somebody installed SUs. Many people actually like SUs better than Zenith Strombergs. So what I see here though is that this distributor has vacuum retard. So in I don't know what year, emissions regulations and stuff required a vacuum retard. So at idle, the timing retards, and that's better for the environment. Well, actually, it makes your engine run like crap. So I think what happened here is they hooked the vacuum retard to the bottom of the carb, right here underneath, where I believe the vacuum advance needs to be hooked up. So I have to check that. Now I have the spark plugs out. We're gonna clean them and we're gonna put them back in, and we're gonna start the engine and we will see. But I believe that what happens right now is when you open the throttle, instead of advancing the timing, you are actually retarding it with the vacuum, and then the mechanical advance kicks in and compensates. But I think this hose should be disconnected and the port should be plugged, because we don't need it. We don't need to retard the engine at all. But we're gonna see that. So I'm gonna clean the spark plugs. I'm gonna put them back in, and then we're gonna start the engine and we will see if we have vacuum at this port at idle or not. That's gonna tell us. Okay, and just to confirm that this is a retard instead of advance, I'm pretty sure because of the position in which this is. The advance unit comes from here, and when the vacuum pulls, it twists the plate this way, which gives it advance. Here, this pulls it backwards. Let's see if I can unplug this hose, yeah. And let's see if I can. You see, it pulls it clockwise. It pulls it counterclockwise, which is actually retarding it. We don't want that. We're gonna leave it disconnected here, and I'm gonna plug it for now. Or actually, I'm gonna put my gauge. Okay. And we're gonna see when we have vacuum and when we don't. And we're gonna put the spark plugs back. All right, let's see what's going on with this vacuum now. So we do have vacuum at idle. Okay. And what happens when we snap it? See, even, okay. So even when I raise the RPM very little, we don't have vacuum there anymore. So that's exactly what it's supposed to do for a vacuum retard, but I don't think we need it. All right, so turns out it was properly hooked up for a vacuum retard, but like I said, the vacuum retard is only for idle and I don't think we need it. So I'm not gonna hook it up. I'm gonna leave it disconnected. Okay, so just for fun, I wanna connect the vacuum and see how that's gonna affect it as it's idling. Yeah, there's vacuum here right now. There you go. It retards the engine and it lowers the RPM and it makes it run like, run so much better like that. And actually, so I guess also the carburetors were set up based on the retarded timing. I think if we open them now, we can set them up to this timing and leave them like that. Right, I took the air cleaners out and look at that. So this one is drawing this much. This one is not drawing anything. So first of all, we have to equalize the airflow and then we're gonna adjust the air-fuel ratio. By the way, I had to go and look these carburetors up because these are not the regular SUs that I've seen. I've seen HS and H carburetors. These are HIF apparently. You see they don't have float balls. They don't even have adjustable jet from underneath. So I was thinking, how the heck do I adjust these? So I had to go and look them up and I figured them out. The adjusting screw for the jet is right here in this hole. So it's again lefty leany, righty reachy. But we're gonna adjust the airflow. So let me start it. And by the way, I took them apart and I cleaned the air valve and I cleaned the pistons and a little bit because they looked pretty dirty. So anyway, so now we're gonna disconnect the linkage here, the usual procedure. Okay. So now they are disconnected and the throttle shafts are independent. So now let's see. This one is still where we left it. And this one is still where we left it. So now on this one, that's funny now. This one, so look at this. Let me zoom you in. So this is the adjuster screw for this one, right? But this one doesn't even have this lever on the shaft, so the adjuster screw, so there's nothing here under the adjuster screw. That's funny. So now I have to improvise. So I have to turn the shaft by hand. I can't though. Okay, that's where we're gonna tighten it. We have to improvise, right? Okay, finally. Okay, now they're pretty equal, right? Perfect. Let's see how they act. We're gonna raise the piston very little and we will see how the RPM are gonna. So you see this one, the RPM is going up. So we want to go lean, so counterclockwise. Okay, that was quarter turn to the left. Yeah, I'm gonna drop the RPM a little bit now. Okay, so let's see now. Okay, now it's ready to die. Wow, that was such a small adjustment, like literally quarter turn. So I'm gonna go 1/8 back. Yeah. Okay, 1/16. Now she's running lean. How come? Okay, I'll put it where it was. That's exactly where it was before. How? Because the RPM was higher before? I think now it's good. So now it is half a turn towards the reach side actually from where it was before. But it is what it is. Let's see this one now. Well, this one I'm gonna leave where it is. Or maybe I'm gonna turn it a little bit towards the reach side. Yeah, that's where I'm gonna leave it. You know what? Let's go for another test drive quickly. Ooh, yeah, definitely she's a lot more snappier now because she's not retarded at idle. And she runs so much better actually. She's not running well again. What's going on? We're gonna go and hook it up to the scanner. Look at that. So I came back to the garage and I hooked her up right away. And look at this spark line. That's cylinder number 4. Let's look at the other ones. Let me increase the size. Okay. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. See? Every once in a while it does that. I'm gonna go snap it. Okay, let's see what's gonna happen at higher RPM. We went out of the screen, so I'm gonna reduce the size. So spark plug number 4 is not great. Let's see, let's parade them and look at all of them. Yeah, only 4 does that. By the way, I haven't showed you that, but I have a remote for this machine as well, so I can operate it from a distance. So I'm gonna go now. Let's increase the size again. That's F3, increase the size, and we're gonna look at them one by one. So that's cylinder number 1, 2, okay. Let's zoom in again. So that's 1, right? Let's reduce the size. 1 again. Lots of fluctuations in the middle of the spark line. But this is number 2 now. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5. And number 6. Okay, let's see what this means. All right, there's few interesting things here. So this is what we saw, like this or this. And here it says indicates high secondary resistance. This one indicates high spark plug circuit resistant. So I don't see what the difference between these two is, but high resistance. So it might be the spark plug wire, or it might be the spark plug itself. But also all these fluctuations here in the middle says indicates rich fuel mixture. And here this one says indicates gap to rotor segment is bad. So you know what we're gonna do? Yeah, I think that's the distributor cap or the rotor, but I'm gonna take number 4 spark plug and I'm gonna switch it with number 1 just to see if that temporary condition is gonna move. See how they run now? Yeah, you see this one is fouled again. So how come this one is fouled and this one is not? So let's look at number 6 as well, because these are on the same carburetor, right? Yeah, this one is fouled too. Huh. Oh, well, let's take them all out. Okay, so that was 1, that was 4. I'll take them all out again and we're gonna check them. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this carburetor still runs rich. How come? Anyways, I'm gonna clean these three again. Okay, I cleaned them up again, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take 4 and I'm gonna switch it with 6, and we're gonna see how that's gonna affect it. But once I start the car, I'm gonna go and lean that carb even more, because we made it richer, you know. Even though it was running rich already, we made it even richer based on the lifting thing. But I'm just gonna turn it I'm gonna turn it full turn to the lean now, because now we are half a turn towards the rich based on the original how it was. So I'm gonna go full turn to the lean, which is gonna bring us to half turn below our base, which was our initial setting. I actually decided to switch the spark plugs between 4 and 5 because we switched the wires already, so let's keep switching between these two cylinders. Anyways, and I leaned that carburetor, so let's see what the scope is gonna say now. What is this number 1? Do that anymore. So I guess it was because the spark plugs were foul. Okay. I guess in the beginning, before it was okay, right? Then later it started running like crap. So we're gonna drive her longer. Yeah, you can definitely feel that there's no vacuum advance. Well, that's a little better. Still a little bit foul, but you know, I'm gonna lean it a little bit more. Yeah, that's better. So that's the number 4 actually. I took it from number 5, but that's the one that was in number 4 before. So that's better now. Well, that's where we're gonna leave it. Yep. That's the color that we want to see. So now we are good. Okay, one last thing I want to do. So after we removed the vacuum retard, she started idling much better, right? We basically advanced the idle only. That though didn't interfere with the advance at the higher RPM when the mechanical advance takes place, because as soon as we open the throttle, the retard wasn't in the game anymore. So the higher RPM, the retard was not doing anything. So what I think I'm going to do actually is I'm going to hook up the retard, but I'm going to tweak a little bit the timing. So I'm going to give it a little bit of advance. So when it is retarded, it's going to be in the position where it is now without the retard. You know what I mean? And this means that as soon as we open the throttle, the retard is going to disengage and it's going to give it a little bit of advance. So it's going to act like the vacuum advance, you know what I mean? Which is going to make it more snappy. But that is also going to affect a little bit of the mechanical advance, because now we're going to have double advance. Okay, so let me loosen this screw now. So now let's start it and... Okay. There you go. So you see how it drops out. But we're going to advance it now. Okay. Okay, we're gonna leave it a little bit loose and we're gonna go for a drive. We're gonna see on the uphill now what's gonna happen. We're gonna slow down now and we're gonna try to snap it uphill in fourth gear. So, yeah, I don't hear the advance clicking. Okay, let's give it third. Okay, I think that's good. That's where we're gonna leave it. Let's see, cylinder number 1, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The smoothest. Okay. All right, I think now she runs and sounds good, and that's where we're gonna leave everything. Yeah, I don't know why the carburetor, when you lift the air valve, shows that it's lean when obviously she's running rich. So we adjusted that. And even the waveform improved, didn't it? Yeah. Anyways, I think she's perfectly good now. So that's gonna be it for this video. I hope it wasn't too boring. Usually these videos are when we look at the screen all the time, but I think we spent enough time in the engine bay as well, right? So anyways, so that's gonna be it, guys. Thanks for watching, thanks for commenting, subscribing, sharing, supporting the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. So now let me go back to my previous episode that I'm still filming. You've already seen it, I'm still filming it. How does this work? I don't know. Anyways, see you guys, bye.